Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always interesting journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a tarot oracle card reader, teacher, and I am a guitarist and singer in the rock band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and I help people shift away from negative thinking, and they have quite a transformation.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. At this time, we're posting a brand new episode every Monday morning. We appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving a comment, and writing us a review. All of that helps other people find us. Each week, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week, we're going to start off talking about what are we going to start off talking about, Stephanie?
So, this week, the law of attraction, which we hardly ever talk about, I know, right? But so here, we talk a lot about Abraham Hicks, where Esther Hicks channels the collective energies of Abraham. And I think this is the second book that they ever put out, which is called The Law of Attraction, The Basics of the Teachings of Abraham. And I've highlighted, I've underlined, I've circled pages that are awesome. And I came across this page that I had circled the page number. So to me, that was like, okay, I really, really love this page. And I was reading both pages, but the thing that really stood out to me was the paragraph, like it's on page 129, and it says, I can create deliberately, intentionally, and joyfully. And partway through the paragraph, it says, contentment comes only from wanting, then allowing, and then receiving. And so, as you're moving through this experience of physical life, holding your thoughts in the direction of what is wanted, and this is the part that got me, letting the powerful law of attraction work for you, bringing more and more of the events and circumstances and other beings who are compatible with you into your experience. Then you will find your life spiraling upward to joy and freedom. The part letting the powerful law of attraction work for you just really landed with me. Because I don't know that too many people think of it. Some people just poo poo it like it's not a thing. But
Yeah.
then like hearing it put in that one, letting the powerful law of attraction work for you, it just gave me this sense of like, kind of like what we were talking in a few episodes ago about how let me do 1% and let the
Yeah.
universe do 99%. I think that's where all of that kind of comes from, like letting the powerful law of attraction work for you. I was just like, oh, like it's
Well,
not all on me.
you and I have had talked often about how when we observe, some synchronicity between what we've been thinking about and then something manifests, and it's like really clear. Um, our temptation and the temptation of a lot of people is to say, "Wow, that's so weird," or "That's so crazy," or "That I can't
Yeah,
believe that happened."
yeah.
And that's sort of, I mean, it's understandable why we feel that way because we're not really trained to think about the fact that the law of attraction exists, is working 24/7, 365 all the time. But I've started to joke whenever I say that or you say that or somebody else says it and going, yeah, it's actually not weird. It's actually the way everything is working all the time. That's just, you or I or whoever it is it's the manifestation, the link between the manifestation and the person's vibration is so clear that we suddenly notice it. But it really is, like, we use the metaphor all the time of, the law of gravity. Like, the law of gravity is working for you all the time. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, man, when I leave my house today, how am I going to, like, use the law of gravity to make sure I don't fly off into outer space? Like, this is a very stressful situation. Like, we don't think that. Like, we just walk out and the law of gravity keeps us on the ground, and as long as we hold our balance and don't
Yeah.
don't try some athletic move that we're not, skilled at, we're going to stay upright. But I think because of just how we're trained mentally as young people in our culture, at least, like, we don't think of the law of attraction that way, and we think of
Well, we're not
because
even
it's something
told
that,
about it, right? I mean,
yeah,
like, I wasn't. I think I think before The Secret came out, because I was coming across some journals recently, because I'm kind of letting go of some things that no longer serve me. And even in 2003, I was already delving into the spirituality of life, and getting support with growing that muscle. And I had written like thoughts are things, and I think of Mike Dooley for that one. That's probably where that
that's
came
become
from.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, that was several years before The Secret came out. I think The Secret came out in '06. So, but prior to that, what was I in? I was in my 40s, maybe. I don't even remember now, but I never knew. No one sat me down and said, this is how it works, and
Yeah.
this is what's going to serve you best. They don't teach it in school. Um, Usually, our parents and grandparents don't know about it, and so I feel like that's why you and I are here, to let more
Mm.
people know about it. Because still, I think there's a huge part of the population that either doesn't believe in it or is just doesn't have the knowledge.
Doesn't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like for me, I have a journey that a lot of people have had or similar to it where I didn't know about it. And then I watched The Secret and then I was like, oh, wow, holy cow. But that was like one level of awareness. Then I discovered, Abraham Hicks and started listening to her and watching her videos and stuff. And, the longer I go on, the more it becomes like sort of normal or natural to think about it. But it's still sort of, there are still times where, um, I forget about it, or temporarily I have negative thinking that takes over, and it just doesn't allow for that. But yeah, but it really does work the way. I mean, and I mean our entire culture. You know, most people don't talk about how it works. Like most people don't talk all day about like we don't check in with each other and say what kind of week did you create this week.
Ooh, I like
We
that.
kind of say like what kind of week did you have, as if all the events and everything you had nothing to do with it, you had nothing, no influence whatsoever over it, and it all just happened to you randomly, and you're just walking around and receiving random things that happen to you because you have no control or influence whatsoever. And the reality is it is more like what kind of week did you create for yourself this week.
Dude, I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah.
What? Instead of like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Say, what kind of week
It's interesting, just like at a
do?
very basic level, like how our typical conversations among family, friends, coworkers, whatever, tends to start like in massive defiance of the law of the art of allowing, at least, because that, like you say, like most times when you reconnect, you haven't seen a friend in a few days, you say like, oh, how are you doing? And like a lot of people's temptation is to either say, I'm good, everything's good, and not elaborate, or start listing and detailing all the bad things that happened. Like, oh God, I got sick, and for 2 days I was coughing and hacking, and then, like my tire blew out of my car, so like I had no time, but I had to take it in the shop. Da 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 da. You know what I mean? I was. It's funny. I was at I went to see Corey, my friend Corey. His band played Saturday night in Los Angeles, and I went to see his show, and he was brilliant and wonderful as usual. But then I was hanging out with with his wife and some of his friends that I hadn't met before, and trying to keep all anonymity. His friends who I hadn't met before have someone they know in their life who is a very highly toxic person. And this person generates stories constantly because their behavior is so toxic and so mean and just self-serving, and just really like not the person we most of us want to try to be. That this person just generates stories, and so these friends of Corey's had like story after story of this toxic person. Oh, this one time they did this, and this one, oh, wait till you hear about this other time we did this. And like, so we talk about this person and we're like analyzing them, like, what do you think makes them tick, and why do you think they're like that, and all that sort of stuff. And I said, well, is there anybody else in this circle, who's really cool that I don't know about? And they're like, oh yeah, there's this other person. And I'm like, what are they like? And they're like, I don't know, they're just really cool. They like football. And like that's all anybody had to say.
Oh, that's
And it just was very symbolic for me of like, yeah, like we're not in the habit of focusing on
yeah.
talking a
It is a
lot about
training.
cool things and positive things. Like,
Yeah, it's a
um,
practice.
yeah, but we just love to talk about, you know, and to a certain extent, you and I have talked about this before. It's like, and I was saying this too, as like, because I don't know if they were complaining about this person. It seems like they kind of have like an acceptance about this person. Like they can't get this person out of their life. I don't want to give anything away, but this person is in their life, for the long haul. So they've kind of come to terms with it. But I said, it's interesting. Like this person's obviously causing you a ton of frustration, annoyance, discomfort, awkwardness, But I'm like, that person's like, if there was a Netflix show about that person, everybody'd be into it. You know what I mean? Like, we'd love to watch stories. We love to hear about stories that are interesting, but we don't like to actually experience a lot of times like the interesting things that happen because of like toxic people and danger and all this other stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, it's more to be an observer
yeah, yeah,
from a distance
yeah,
safely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, like, if that's what we want, if we want peaceful, like, happy lives with just a lot of joyful experiences and not a lot of drama, not a lot of toxicity, then, you and I know from the art of allowing, then you kind of need to vibrate that way. You need to be talking and focusing and spending energy, thinking and talking about wonderful experiences and healthy people and people that bring joy into your life and whatever. But that's usually, it's like, well, if somebody's just a joy to be around, we just go, yeah, she's great. Like, you
So
know.
your story just reminded me of the other day I had bought some pea protein from the vitamin shop, and it
Mhm.
really wasn't. I just got it because where I usually get it, it was going to be sent to me, and I didn't have
This is from the
time. So
vegetable, the piece.
yes, it's a great
Clarifying.
form of protein, and so the quality wasn't as good as what I'm used to, and so I went to go return it, and there was a little shopping mall near my house. And I went in there and exchanged it. And then I started looking around. I didn't know that they also have like toothpaste and they have homeopathy. And so I was shopping around, looking around, and they had the body wash that I love for a really good price. And so I picked that up and I started, went to go pay for it and was talking with the gentleman who was checking me out for my purchase. And we had this really nice conversation. He was very interesting. We were talking about Dr. Bronner's products, and he loves it, and I think it's great, but I don't like the way it feels on my skin. And so we leave there, and I leave, and I'm like, oh, that was a really nice interaction with this, man just chatting. And then I'm walking through the parking lot, heading back to my car. I'm like 15, 20 feet from my car, and I see this woman start to pull out of the parking area, and there's another car going by her. I don't know if she saw them or not, but I witnessed a car accident. She like pulled
Uh,
out in front of him, and or pulled out as he was going by her, and so I just heard, I was like, oh, and I heard metal colliding, and witnessed the whole thing. Um and then I stayed, and they ended up pulling over and exchanged. I told the young man he had a nice or newer car, and so this is like his first owie, it looks like, on his car. And I said, do you want my phone number? He goes, yes. And so I gave him my phone number, and I started walking away, and I thought, wow, that was interesting, like that I saw that, and I like actually witnessed it happening and everything. And I got back in my car. I was a little afraid to drive. And then I thought, I'm driving away, and I thought, oh, thank you, universe. because I have been finding myself doing more than just driving while I'm
Mm.
driving. And I could tell I was doing it more and more. And it was like, Steph, knock it off, knock it off.
Yeah.
And it was like the universe giving me this experience where I was safe, but
Yeah.
also really like, hey, you need to like tone it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool experience, and I'm glad I was able to be of service to someone else. Sorry that it happened and everything, but it was a wake up call for me to just be like, pretty much just focus on driving when you're driving stuff.
I had a another experience that just reminds me of another experience I had last Saturday night when I was going to Corey's show because I was playing Dungeons and Dragons online with my regular group before then, and my group usually we end at various times depending on what's going on. But we usually end around 7:30, and Corey was going to go on stage at 8:15, and it takes about 25 minutes that time of night from my place to where Corey was playing. So it's like it's kind of tight, kind of a tight window. But Corey hadn't played since the pandemic, and I really wanted to be there. So, but I typically like when I'm going to an event like that, I try to leave early so that I don't have the like, oh, I might be late vibration going at all. And this just sort of happened of like, I couldn't leave until 7:30 when we finished up, and then I was kind of in a hurry, and I got on to Laurel Canyon Boulevard to go to Hollywood. I live in the San Fernando Valley, so that was on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, and I got behind these two men in an old timey like 1950s convertible, and it was a very beautiful car, but they were going super slow. And it's just one of these things that happens a lot in LA traffic. I had two lanes, but like there was constant traffic in the left lane, so I couldn't pull out and get around them. And it's just like cars are whizzing by us, and I'm like, guys, like come on, but it was like such a specific vehicle. It was like I was more focused than normal on, like, these freaking two guys in this old timey car. Like, come on, guys, pick it up. Like, And so finally, after quite a while of me like consternating on these two guys in this convertible, the traffic on the left side clears up. So I pull out and I go around them, and I'm like, ugh. And then I didn't think about them anymore. But of course, I spent a lot of energy for like maybe 3 minutes, just like, these guys in this car, these guys in this car, these guys in this car. So I go to see Corey play, and they started at 8:15, they finished around 9. But I ended up hanging out with him, his bandmates, his wife, and some of their friends for a long time. We were all just having a great time. And so I stayed much longer than I thought I would, and I think I stayed till like 11:30 at night or something like that. It was very unusual for me. Usually after I go to an event like that, I'm out pretty quick. Um, but so I drive home, and I leave Hollywood and I go home on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, and I pull up to and I'm going the other way, coming back through Studio City to get back to my house. And the same place that I met those guys in the convertible, I pull up at a red light, and they're right next to me on the left.
Are you fucking kidding me?
3.5 hours later, like going the other direction, like they're
Oh
right
my
there.
God.
And I was just like, of course they are, because I spent so much energy in that 3 minutes, like those guys, that car. And it was like,
Oh my
and
God.
if they were in like a blue Prius or something, I might not have even been able to recognize them because the car was so unique and unusual. And they were like, it was a convertible, so I could see what they looked like. Pulled up right next to him, and I was like, "Of course I did. Of course I did." Now
Oh my
that's the sort of
God.
thing we'd say, "Oh, that's so weird." It's like, nope. Like I spent because I remembered spending energy and I'm just like the vibration is just like, energy on that car, energy on those guys, energy, energy, energy. It's like,
The
of course I
focus,
should have.
right? Focus and attention. You
Yeah,
gave them your full attention
yeah.
and strong emotion. Wow, that's a great story. Oh my gosh.
And I
That's
think,
funny.
yeah,
Well, so the thing about, I was thinking when you were like, oh, come on, get it, oftentimes when I'm in a rush
mm,
driving, um, I'll think, and then I'll get the lights or, whatever. And I'm like, okay, just slow down. Like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get there. Like, the universe is telling you to slow down. So
Yeah.
that's one. And then the other thing is, used to happen to me all the time. If Lou and I were driving somewhere, but we were in separate cars, and he drives like the speed limit. Like, I always say, like, you drive like an old man. But anyways, and I'm like, I'm more of a speed demon. I'll go much faster than
Mhm.
the speed limit. Um, and we always used to piss me off. He'd be behind me. Sometimes I couldn't even see him, and we would arrive at the same freaking time. So that's what I kind of remind myself. It's like, why are you going fast, Steph? You're going to get there. If you go 80, you're going to get there at the same time as somebody else that's doing 70. Just like slow your
Yeah.
roll.
This is weird. This is reminding me. I've had multiple experiences like this. I had another experience on, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Um, I went to my doctor, my general physician, who happens to be located in Beverly Hills, and I've been to the office many times. I know how to get there. It's on Wilshire. It's in a very like prominent location in Wilshire Boulevard, so it's
Yeah, I was
very
going to
easy.
say Beverly Hills. Hey.
But it's very easy to remember like where it is and everything because it's on a prominent corner, on Wilshire Boulevard. So I drove there, and the whole like middle of the street, from like 2 blocks before the office to 2 blocks after the office, was being dug up for construction. So what I normally have to do is I go down Wilshire Boulevard and I take a left to get into their parking lot, but I couldn't because like the construction was blocking 2 blocks before that, 2 blocks after. So I just had to take the next left, and right before I took the next left, there were these two. There was like a young couple, and I'd say they're pretty young, like 17, 18 years old, maybe high school, maybe just graduate high school, and they were in love, and like they were dressed in a very specific way, again, like so that I would remember, a way you would remember how they're dressed. Um, and they were just like they were just being silly, like when you're young and in love, you're silly, and it was great, but it was a weird contrast to me because all of a sudden for me, I was like, my day's been interrupted from my plan, right? Because I was just going to go take that left, pull into the parking lot, and go to the doctor's office. Now I actually am not entirely sure how on earth, because that area of Beverly Hills I was in, it's not exactly a grid. So like if you took a left and 3 rights, it doesn't necessarily take you right back the same way. So I remember noticing them, and I just remember thinking like, oh, nice for you. You're having this wonderful free day where you're like, he's twirling her around and she's laughing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, being really silly in a good way. Like, I mean, like if I'd been in a
But I
better,
mean, above and beyond, like in love, like
yeah,
just like it's
yeah,
almost like movie fairy tale. Yeah, that's
very
awesome.
much, very much, yeah. Um, but it was just an odd, I wasn't in the best frame of mind about them. I'm in a much better frame about them now. I'm really glad that they had fun or whatever. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was like the moment I found out my day's interrupted, I see them, and they don't have a care in the world, and they're just like super happy, and I'm like,
A little,
construction.
a little contrast here, right,
Yeah,
between you and them.
yeah. So I take the next left, and I go down the block, and I turn around, and I try to come back on Wilshire, and I miss I take a wrong turn or something. So I'm like going diagonally, kind of like in the general correct direction, but I'm going diagonally instead of straight, basically. And I get up, one more block, and they're there again, like, and it's not the same place. They've actually moved down a block, but I actually drove up past them again, and so again they're like looking in store windows, and like he's kissing her hand and all that stuff, and I'm like, and I'm getting more and more lost and further and further away from my doctor's office, and so I'm like, oh, these kids in love and like me. so so then I'm like, okay, I take another tactic. So then I try taking a right, and I try another way to get back around. And somehow, like when I get like 3 blocks from there, and I turn right, and they've gone down 1 block and turned left, and they're right in front of me again.
Oh, how
And again, and they're
funny.
like,
You
and
think someone's talking to you? That's very
but it was
interesting.
just
Like,
so
there's a
interesting
couple
because
of
I was like, and it happened 4 times where I was like, and it wasn't like, oh, they just walked down one block and I passed that place again. It was like I kept taking weird turns and they had taken the opposite weird turn of their walk so that they were
yeah,
right where I was again. And
yeah,
at the end of it, I was like, what are the odds, of them being there
yeah.
every single time? And then I was like, oh, well, you've got another place you're going with it, but we can get to that in a moment. But the fact that they kept appearing, it's the same thing with the guys in the 50s car. It's like, oh, I kept focusing on them and putting all this energy in there. Like, those kids, I
Well,
keep seeing those kids. And then, of course, like 30 seconds later, I see them again. And.
and then there's another. Well, there is two things, but this one just came to me right now. Is like it was also. I feel like it was the universe telling you to like slow down,
Yeah, yeah.
chill out, like,
Yeah, yeah.
be in love, like,
Yeah.
but my first thought was, oh, like, isn't that interesting? Because I think if I was to see that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I want that, like an adult
I
version
didn't even
of
think of
that.
that until just now, but
And
yeah, you're
and
totally
that,
correct about
it's
that.
coming, it's like
Yeah.
the universe going, here, this is what a future moment for you will look like, especially if it's something that I find attractive.
Yeah.
um, but I feel like for you, kind of like for me when I was speaking earlier of the stop sign, getting the stoplights, it was like the universe telling you, slow down.
Yeah.
You're gonna get there. It's okay if you're a few minutes late. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And for you, the universe was like, hey, Collin, it's just like be in the moment. Look, life is good. Like, here's a little bit of joy.
Well, the other thing too is about that. I'm glad I started telling this story because half of this I didn't even think about until now. Because we've talked about indicator experiences
Yeah,
where,
that's what I'm talking about when
yeah,
I said, oh,
like when you're trying to attract something into your life and you're actually doing so well at having your vibration attract that you don't get the thing right away, but you get the indicator from the universe that's close to what you want, which is like, hey, it's
a
on its way. Like,
signpost.
you're
A
doing a great job.
signpost.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, like when we're driving on the freeway and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
you start off, it's 252 miles to LA.
Yeah.
You drive another hour. Okay, now it's 100, whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm getting closer. And that's
Yeah.
what those, signpost
But I mean, if you
indicators are
think
saying,
about
getting
it,
warmer.
like, if one of the things you'd like to attract into your life is like a happy romantic relationship, which is something I'd like to attract, like, I can just see myself. I mean, I didn't do this literally, but I can see myself, in the morning before I start my day, like, universe, I would like you to show me that I'm close to, welcoming in this thing that I've wanted to manifest for a while. So could you please give me a sign at some point today that that's going to happen? And then if I'm not paying attention, then that whole experience, which I wasn't.
Which, well, I'm gonna say that's what
Yeah.
happened. You didn't
Right.
say that, but your vibration is saying
Right.
that. You just didn't verbally say it to the
Right.
universe, and yet
But
the
if I'm
universe handed it to you, and you still didn't see it.
But I mean, I think most people, and myself, if I didn't know about the law of attraction, art of allowing, would their only thing of that whole experience would be like, God, I couldn't find the parking lot, and it was even more annoying because there was this happy couple annoying me, and it's all on this. All you're looking at is the surface stuff, and you're missing the fact that the universe is hearing your vibration of what you're allowing in, is sending you a signal that it's on its way, and you're doing great. And like, that's why it had to reroute me. Like, the construction had to be there
Oh my
so that
God!
I could, have that experience.
And man, it did not stop. It kept, like you said, you ran into him like 4 different times.
4 different times. It was ridiculous. It was like I couldn't get
Oh.
away from them. It was like if I had tried. It was like a weird, like, I was in my car, but it was like an escape room. Like, if I tried to get away from them, I couldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is such a great story. So
Yeah.
it was a great indicator of what's to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
And
maybe.
I think the other thing there is the construction, which was frustrating me, is also an answer to, like, that's the thing. It's like, if I want to attract something into my life, I'm going to attract indicator experiences first, typically. but the
Well, yeah, because they
universe,
even say the feeling comes before the manifestation.
right? So, but the universe has to be able to do things to get your attention for that sort of stuff. So, like, the construction was not an annoyance that was put there to frustrate me. That was an answer to something I had been vibrating of, like, please show me a signal, you know? And, but my immediate reaction to it was, oh, ruin my day, you know?
So then to come full circle, would you
Yeah.
say that letting the powerful law of attraction work? So would you say that the powerful law of attraction is working for you, was working for you?
Yeah, 100%. And it's
Yeah,
working all the
yeah,
time. And, like, that's
yeah,
the thing. If
exactly.
you miss,
Yeah.
like, that's that construction that blocked me from entering the parking lot. Like, that's when I was talking about how we take gravity for granted. Like, we see that as like, oh, it's some horrible thing that randomly happened to me that interrupted my day. And it's like, no, that is the life you're creating. Like, everything in your day you attracted with your vibration, your thoughts, and your feelings. Like, everything.
And I just am always in awe of how creative the universe is.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. I just
If we
love, I
let it.
love.
If we let it, because if we just,
Well, no, it's about whether we see it, whether we recognize it. It's not about letting it, because I think it's doing it all the time, anyways.
well, the universe is always infinitely creative, but what I'm saying is, like, if you like pick a few things that you hate, like your job, what you eat for dinner, whatever, and then you just focus on those all the time, you'll keep having that for dinner, and you'll keep having that job, and that's what I mean. Like, the universe is so
Okay.
creative; it'll let you
Yeah.
create things you hate all the time, also.
Yeah.
But if you give
Yeah.
it free
Yeah.
reign
Yeah.
to create wonderfulness, it can do that just as easily. So,
And I guess I experience that a lot, so I think
yeah,
of it in that term mostly.
yeah.
And it just constantly is blowing my mind, which comes back to what you were saying earlier about how people are like, "Oh my God, that's amazing," or and it's like, no, that's how the universe works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great discussion. We're so happy that you joined us for this little chat that we had here today. Remember that we're posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning at this point. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving a comment, and writing us a review. All of that helps other people find the show. All of our social media links and our email address are in the description on our YouTube video down below. We wish you a happy, abundant week of attracting things you want into your life, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station.